Welcome to the official podcast where the bombs get thrown. I'm your host, May Shayla Bogan, and I introduce to you the Mike Bomb Podcast.
This is my night, this is my pain, this is my life, this is what I was born to do, I was born to do, every new day, every new night, every new stage, every new fight, this is what I was born to do, I was born to do, fall to my knees every night and I pray, asking Lord let him hear, I got something to say. There's a fear out there and it's coming your way. Don't let it stop you from living for what you were made. It's not a dream, it's a destiny.
All right, welcome to the first ever episode. Once again, the first ever episode back of the Mike Bomb Podcast with your host, May Shayla, your co-host, Miss Kayla Lewis, Indian Redhead, and our special guest, Miss Breezy. Breezy, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm hanging in there. Kayla, how are you?
We're just happy to be here.
Yeah. I think Stacy should be joining us on the show. If not, we'll miss her. But the show must go on, speaking of which. So, Breezy, obviously you have such a strong background in sports. That's why I asked you to be on the show. And honestly, we're just happy to have you because we've been looking to talk about more NFL teams than the usual. And the Eagles is just a team that I just feel like we have not touched on enough. So, but before we even get started on that, we're taking it back here a little to your background in sports. You are the host of a great podcast. I actually just got done the other day listening to a couple episodes called Sports and Stilettos. Explain how that got started and like your inspiration behind all of that.
Well, it actually just started off as a hobby. I enjoy sports. I enjoy watching it. I started off as a NBA fan growing up. I loved playing basketball. But when Allen Iverson got traded from the Sixers, it was like can't watch Sixers anymore for a little bit. So I kind of transitioned to watching football with my dad, and the love for the game just really grew from there. And, every week parked in front of the TV every Sunday, every Thursday, every Monday. That was my life. And, one of my friends was just like, why don't you just do a podcast? And I'm like, no, I'll do it, after my undergrad. And she was like, if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So, I just decided one day to just do it. And 5 years later, here we are.
So you've been running this podcast for 5 years. So does this podcast are you covering strictly the Eagles or are you covering all NFL teams?
Well, it's primarily the Eagles. But have to talk about our NFC East and those Dallas Cowboys sometimes. So, most of the time it's just Eagles. But I do dabble in, some other NFL teams depending on what's going on that week when I record.
Hey, Space, nice to join the show. Would you like to introduce yourself to everyone who must have forgotten or, before we move on?
Yes. It's been a little time. First of all, hello, everyone. So great to see you girls again. It is Stacy X Sports, aka Darn That Stacy J on IG. And just happy to be here. It's a beautiful Wednesday. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it is a beautiful day, honestly. The weather's not bad over here in Pittsburgh, but show must go on. So, Breezy, I feel like that's a great podcast. And honestly, that podcast alone is inspiration to why, like I said, I asked you to be on the show. I think I didn't even know that you was running it that long. I feel like kind of embarrassed that, it wasn't until like last year that I, started discovering the podcast. That's when you and I was mutually following each other or begun.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that, it's another great podcast because ironically, this is another all-female sports podcast. So, from one female podcast to another, congrats and wish you the best on that show. But we did ask you to be on the show to talk about your Philadelphia Eagles because I think headed into last season, no one had them as favorites to go to the Super Bowl.
No.
Everyone was talking about the Cowboys, the Niners, who behinds they whooped in the NFC Championship game. They were talking about basically pretty much every team exception of the Giants, every team that was in the playoffs but yours.
Right.
They was chatting about the Rams possibly repeating. They did have a good shot, but week one, I think, of last season showed us what it was going to be for the Rams. And unfortunately, that was the case for them. But let's just talk about your Eagles, your overall thoughts on the season.
Well, last year, ironically, I kind of predicted how the season was going to go. Um, I had them, I think, at 13-4. Record wise, I said that Jalen Hurts was going to take a huge step forward in the passing game, and defense was going to be top 3 or top 5, something like that. And everything pretty much came to pass. Like it was beautiful to watch it unfold every week, and be shocked every week to see how this team pulls themselves out of the gutter to win games and to keep their foot on the gas every week.
Yeah, your Eagles, without question, I believe was the number 2, number 3 offense in the league behind the Chiefs, maybe number 1. But you guys did, if I'm not mistaken, had the number 1 ranked defense, which is a good thing.
Yes. Yes.
Um, Obviously, you kept 90% of your roster, and you may lost a couple of offensive line. Us, as a Steelers fan, we apologize for taking one of your best, but we needed him.
All right, fine. Since you're so nice, I'll let this one slide.
Listen. We know Pittsburgh, Philly. We know what it is. It's the battle of PA. We get it.
Yeah.
Trust me, we get it over here. But it was a great season for the Eagles, and obviously they exceeded expectations to a point that it built such a strong expectation headed into this year. Obviously, without question, they are the favorites. They did have, I must say, an excellent NFL draft. I don't know what people was out here thinking. I don't know why you would let the Eagles go to the Super Bowl last year and allow them to get like what 2 to 3 draft picks in the first round, and 90% of those picks were in the top 10, top
Yeah.
15, which is a great landing spot, by the way. And it's like I don't understand what's wrong with people. I don't understand what's wrong with the NFC. Like, why would you lie? That's what we think
Yeah.
about. It's like they act like you guys did not win the Super Bowl 5 years before this, and then now here you is kicking down the door again. But we speaking of the Super Bowl, and we're speaking of you guys. Obviously, some people just not being over it. Trust me, we do not blame you at all for that. But we got to talk about it. What were your thoughts on Super Bowl 57 game overall versus the Kansas City Chiefs?
Overall, I thought it was a really great game. I thought Jalen Hurts, he played his butt off in that game, and I wasn't expecting him to play as well as he did. And then I didn't expect Kansas City to kind of play as poorly as they did, but still stay in the game. So it was a little weird to watch. Um, but I mean, as you probably saw on Twitter earlier today, I have not rewatched the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's been on TV a few times, but I have not. I've decided to, keep that where it was and not
I
watch it again.
absolutely understand because the Falcons 28-3 gate game is a
Ooh,
favorite every year on the station
yeah,
to replay, and I honestly did not even realize that the game went until overtime until like 2 years ago because I hadn't rewatched the game. I left before where I was before the game
yeah.
ended, and I did not watch anything that discussed it for a very
Nobody
long
blames
time. I was
you.
like, wait
Nobody
a minute,
blames
there was
you.
more to this game. But just out of curiosity, Breezy, why did you feel as if Jalen Hurts wasn't going to play as well as he should? I know he had a little bit of an injury. He was battling a bit of an injury, or that was a question. Was that the reason, or were there other factors considering that?
No, I wasn't really worried about Jalen coming back from an injury. I thought he was fine. Um, we heard all of the press conferences about his shoulder and how he was reacting and responding in practice and things like that. So the injury didn't really bother me. It was actually Kansas City that kind of made me a little iffy because we know that they can turn it on and turn it up whenever they want to. And I wasn't expecting Jalen to play or to outplay Patrick Mahomes. You know, that's almost unheard of to hear of another quarterback outplaying the top quarterback in the league for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
So, you know, that was really my biggest thing. Like, I thought that they would be fairly even, but I didn't think that they would be lopsided like they were.
Yeah, before Stacy and you go on, I just want to chime in on that because it's just like the way I watched that game to me was, if not without question, the best Super Bowl game we have seen in years. You know, to me, this Super Bowl that just passed between you guys and the Kansas City Chiefs, without question, topped the Bengals and the Rams the previous year, and it definitely topped the Chiefs and the Bucks game because that's the game I think I speak for everyone except for maybe Bucks fans. No one saw coming.
Yeah.
But Jalen Hurts did play lights out. But a lot of players, a lot of fans are blaming though the bad officiating and the turfing condition for another reason why they did not win the Super Bowl. So, do you agree with that take? Do you feel like that played a role?
So the turf situation, I ran track in high school, so I understand, you know, having to change your spikes because of how spongy the track is, or, you know, whatever the case is. So I totally get that part, but solely blaming the turf, I'm not 100% with that. Um, because Kansas City had to play on it too, and they weren't slipping and sliding all over the place like everybody has seen. Um, but the officiating, I always have issues with the officiating when it's not consistent throughout the game. So if you weren't calling holding plays earlier in the game, why are you calling a holding play like within the last minute of the game? Like that's kind of what irritated me. Um, you know, as if they were officiating and calling everything the same way across the board through the entire game, I wouldn't have thought twice about the holding call.
Yeah,
But, you know, they
I
weren't really calling
definitely see
anything.
that.
Yeah, they weren't calling it much of anything during the game. So that random hold, it was like, where did this come from? There were like
Yeah,
6
that
holds, you know, 2 series ago, but nothing got called. So if anything, I think the officiating was a part of the problem there.
Yeah, you can definitely argue that because they were just letting them play football up, like you already said. They was letting them play football all the way up to the final minutes of the game. And when you sit there and allow them to do that, it's like, okay, finish the game that way. It
Right.
did get a little rocky. It did get a little you could say inconsistent, like you already said. But it's like a lot of people started to compare that to how the AFC Championship game went. I don't necessarily agree about the AFC Championship game because I think
Oh yeah.
that game was, consistent. Obviously, people argue that, oh, yeah, they got 3 first downs or something like that, or 3 third downs. But at the end of the day, the same bad officiating that also took not one but 2 turnovers away from the Chiefs defense in that AFC Championship game. Otherwise, that would have been another 1 for 4 game for Joe Burrow. So it's like, you got to think about it like that. Obviously, the
Right.
Super Bowl didn't go that way. And that's the one thing that bothered me a lot about Bengal fans. Is like they were saying, oh, that, Eagle fans, we know how you feel. First thing first, you can't know how they feel because they played way better than you guys played. Let's start there. Their quarterback is
Exactly.
not on the board of having a 1 for 4 game.
Shay, you're
And
gonna have them in your mentions again.
listen, who cares at this point? Who cares at this point? It's like you got to think about that. That's why I had to ask her because that's honestly the second reason why I brought up this question. But obviously, the first reason why I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, and I 100% agree. But speaking of which, Kayla, since your mic is on and everything, drop into this. You have any questions, any comments for this before we move on?
I mean, I can't really speak on the AFC right now. I just, need my AFC team to get their life in order this off season and quiet all the rumors. So, I'm gonna set this one out. We don't know how it feels to be in the Super Bowl conversation lately. So y'all got it.
All right. We spoke about Jalen Hurts and his big approval, his big jump, and obviously, I feel he's only going to get better, especially in an NFC East division that I don't care about the hype of the Cowboys because it's every
Me either.
offseason they're hyped up. I'm picking the Eagles to win, and Jalen Hurts to me is going to be arguably the biggest reason about the reason why behind your defense. But we mentioned Jalen Hurts, we mentioned his big jump, but one thing we did not mention yet is his $255 million contract. So when the news broke from Adam Schefter, what were your thoughts when Mr. Ian Rapport himself broke the news that your guy Jalen Hurts is staying in Philly for at least another 5 years?
I had to like take a break from work. I was working when that news dropped. And I was like, yo, I got to take 10 minutes. I got, Twitter is blowing up. Jalen Hurts just got paid. It was insane. And when you look at the breakdown of the contract, you know, Howie is a mastermind when it comes to the cap, paying players, you know, everything on the back end. Like it's absolutely incredible. So, real quick, going back to the draft, I don't know why people keep answering the phone when they see the 215 number pop up because they know it's Howie. They know he's going to finesse them in some way, shape, or form. And he's done that consistently for 6 years, So seeing Jalen get paid the way that he did and seeing the contract breakdown, I think it's to the benefit of this team and to make sure that they get to a championship in the next 3 or 4 years before the real money starts kicking in.
Which I really think they're going to because I don't see anybody, especially on paper, stopping this Philadelphia
Yeah,
Eagles team. I really don't.
nobody.
I can't see, based off what I saw last year alone, plus the fact that you've only added more pieces. Yeah, you lost the offensive line to the Steelers, but think about it. Who else have you lost? Nobody. Nobody.
Yeah.
Let's get real here for a second, please. Obviously, we spoke about the NFL draft. We're covering them. But before we move on, because I think our girl Stacy here was really excited about Jalen Hurts' contract extension. Stacy, what were your thoughts on that?
I was super excited for Jalen Hurts because there had been a continuing discussion about is he worth it to me? And I do really think that was extremely unfair. Pay that man his money.
Yeah.
He was discredited at every corner. It was already mentioned that no one thought that the Eagles were even going to sniff like deep into the playoffs, let alone get into the Super Bowl. They
Two.
doubted how well he was going to play in the Super Bowl. All these other things. And I think all of that was slightly trying to be used to discredit him, to not pay him what he's worth. So shout out again to my girl Nicole Lynn, getting the job done, sticking to her guns, getting this man his money. And we always like to see a young brother get paid, young brother get paid. But while we're talking about that, I would love to hear how you feel about what I like to consider the Jalen Hurts disrespect, from the Madden ratings to the ratings throughout the league, from other quote unquote coaches who never come forward and say, it was me, I did it. Everybody likes to do these nominations or these picks under complete anonymity. And so I feel like it's disrespect. They have him at like 6, 7 or something like that consistently. So tell me how you feel
After
about
a
that.
Super Bowl. After a Super Bowl.
After the Super Bowl. So do you feel like it's also disrespectful, and where would you rank Jalen Hurts right now?
I think Jalen Hurts is a top 3 quarterback, and he's not number 3 and he's not number 2. So for me, going through last year week by week and seeing how people were always like, oh, well, we still don't know X, Y, and Z. And then he goes out and he shows them, I can be that guy. I'm him. And then you come back, oh, well, we don't know if he's still going to be, can he still stay consistent? And honestly, I think it's just motivation for him at the end of the day, because he took that and he smacked it in everybody's face, throughout the entire season. And we saw when he got hurt how important he is to this offense, because when he's not in there, they're not as fluid as we're used to seeing them. So, him being a huge part of this offense, a huge part of this team, and then to be disrespected the way that he's been disrespected is just motivation for him to keep getting better and show people that they're always going to be wrong about him unless they jump on board.
Yes, and it's continuous, and I have no idea where the hate comes from because as loudly as it's kept, no shade, no tea to Justin Herbert, but he is now the highest paid quarterback in the league. And when is the last time that the Chargers have seriously been to the playoffs? At least 3 years, according
Yeah.
to my notes, according to my records. But it was enough to get him a highest paid contract.
Mhm.
So it's just like let's stop playing in Jalen Hurts' face. Let's stop.
Yep. He's going to he's probably going to show out this year. And I can't wait to see that. I'm actually looking forward to all of the people that are still going to say, well, we don't know about X, Y, and Z with Jalen Hurts. Is he still going to be this player in 2 or 3 years?
Do you feel like the contract but you feel like the contract is just giving people fuel if he does happen to make any slips this season?
Oh, of course. Because they're always gonna use the contract to be the backbone of their argument. And we've seen quarterbacks get paid tons of money and poop the bed essentially. We saw it with Carson Wentz. We literally just went through this. So I think
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the national media is used to seeing really great quarterbacks have this beautiful year one time, get paid, and then just kind of fall off the earth. But I don't think that's the case with Jalen Hurts at all.
Yeah, I want to, chime in a little bit before Stacey get back in here, because I know she been waiting to talk about this. I've been waiting to talk about this. The whole team been waiting to talk about this. That's why, honestly, it was a great idea to bring you on this show. And once again, thank you for joining. But it's plain as simple as this. I don't see how, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, can we please get real here? If it wasn't for the likes of Patrick Mahomes and the way he carried the Chiefs offense last year, Jalen Hurts would have been the league MVP last year. There has not been another offensive player in these past 2 years who could say or look Jalen Hurts dead in the face and say, I'm better than you. You can mention the Joe Burrows all you want. You can mention the Justin Herberts all you want. But first thing first, Justin Herbert, you gotta win. You gotta win a playoff game. Joe Burrow, your postseason stats gotta start looking like Jalen Hurts because they do not. And you cannot be 7-8 in your division and you looking someone in the face saying I'm better than you, like many people would sit there and say about Jalen Hurts. But point being is this: we gotta get 100. We gotta be completely transparent here. Jalen Hurts, without question, is one of the most disrespected athletes in the sports world. Not just the NFL, but in the sports world. The Eagles offense mainly ran around Jalen Hurts. The Eagles offense went as far as Jalen Hurts' body and his playing ability allowed it to. We're not going to pretend like that was not the case. Yes, they have a bomb ass running game. They have that. They have a great offensive line that was number one in the league last year, number one heading into this season. We understand all of that, but we're not going to act. But guess what? Let's use Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns for an example. The Cleveland Browns did for Baker Mayfield back in 2020 and 21 exactly what the Eagles just did for Jalen Hurts. But did Baker Mayfield in 2021 have the same exact season that Jalen Hurts had in 2022? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You didn't even have a 500 season when you had a two-back running game court. You had the best of the best receivers in the league in OBJ and in Jarvis Landry. You have one of the best tight ends in David Njoku, a top 10, top 5, top 10 offensive lineman, led by not one, not two, but three, Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros. We're not going to act like that ain't happen. But guess what? We weren't talking about the Cleveland Browns the way we were talking about the Philadelphia Eagles now. We're not. So it's like, don't sit there and use this great team as an excuse to discredit quarterbacks because everybody needs a team. Everybody needs a quarterback. Hello, it's football. For 100 plus years, the NFL has been built around 32 teams that has been about team that relies on the team sport. that relies on a team in order to compete. You need a team to compete in the league, especially now in an era of mobile quarterbacks with high power offenses. That's why a lot of
Mhm.
people are being extremely aggressive and paying their DBs. Certain teams just didn't take notes and let them go to other divisions, but we could talk about that another shit. We could talk about that another show. But certain people do that. Certain people don't see it that way. But the Eagles, without question, has took care of some of their players. But before we actually move on to certain players, I need to ask you, what are your thoughts on CJ Gardner Johnson and the current situation with the team before Stacy hopped back in here?
So I was a huge fan, CJ Gardner Johnson. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a very like defensive heavy kind of girl. Love my defensive players. When he got to this team, he was spectacular. He talked all the trash, he backed it up. I was betting on him to get interceptions. He was making me money. So, how can you hate someone who's bringing the juice for your team? Um but when his contract situation came up, I was hoping and praying that he would stay. I really was. I was hoping that they could figure out a deal. Um, and when they didn't, and his agent went and spilled the beans on everything, that was a little odd because you don't see that very often. And then for him to, trash talk us, saying that we're obnoxious fans and all of that mess, it just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that was so
Um,
low.
yeah, and it was like it was, unwarranted. We were rocking for him until he left. Now, you're part of another team. We wish you well, but you know, there's no bad blood here. Just don't talk about us. But
Yeah.
yeah, I saw he got hurt a little bit in camp. I think it was last week. Um so, I hope he stays healthy this season. I hope he has a good season, but he's not with the Eagles anymore, so it is what it is.
Yeah, you say you guys were rocking with him, and the crazy thing is, I actually seen a couple of Eagle fans on Twitter where his outbursts pretty much went viral, where some Eagle fans were still rocking with him.
Yeah,
Still upset that he left or that he's no longer an Eagles player because he's a top 10 safety in the league. We're not
right,
going to pretend like he's not. But
right,
it's like we're in an era. Obviously, you got priorities. You got Jalen Hurts. You got AJ Brown. You have to maintain that offensive line because, without question, the Eagles gonna go as far as your offense takes you because this is a pass happy league and you got to keep up with the guys.
right.
But speaking of which, and speaking of keeping up with the guys and drafting players, I gotta ask you this because this before we even get started, Stacy, would you like to add any more takes before we move on? Kayla, Stacy, anyone?
Just going to the CJ Gardner situation, it was extremely distasteful. Like, you never speak on your ex in public. Like, it's a bad
Right.
look. Like,
Exactly.
he's just
Exactly.
so grumpy. He needs a snack. He just needs a snack. So grumpy. Like, why? Like, why? There was literally no reason. And I hope he didn't have a battery in his back or someone was talking him up or he
Right.
got any misinformation because that's totally no reason to alienate an entire fan base that supported you your entire career. So that was definitely in bad taste. So it's just like, like, yeah, again, wish you well, many blessings. Hope you recover from your injury, but keep my team's name out your mother mouth, Will Smith voice. That's it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I mean, he may have, been in talks with Kiki's house boyfriend, but that's none of my business.
Oh
Oh
God.
my
Oh,
lord.
my Lord have mercy. Oh no.
All right. Wow, Kayla, thank you for that one. So we just about to move on now to basically talking about this. The craziest thing I must admit that I have watched since 2004 in the NFL draft, where you guys pretty much just took advantage of everyone's stupidity, where you drafted at least seven players from the defending NCAA national champions, the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs. What were your thoughts when you guys pretty much took everyone that mattered, exception of Broderick Jones,
Go
who
dogs, by
well
the
the
way. Go
Steelers did.
dogs. Go dogs.
Go dogs. Love to
What were
hear it.
your thoughts?
I was really excited. Nolan Smith was one of the players that I was, I had on my little draft board that I wanted the Eagles to get. Um, and I wasn't sure if Jalen Carter was going to be the one to slide or if Nolan Smith was going to be the one to slide. So when they grabbed Jalen Carter first, super excited. I'm like, yo, like we literally just picked up the best defensive player in the draft. Like it's unreal. And then to get to 30 and Nolan Smith is still there. Picked him up too. Why not? I mean, nobody else wants to grab him. You know that you have to face this Eagles offense. Why are you not stacking your defensive line? You know what I mean? So you snooze, you lose. You keep picking up. Like I said, you keep picking up for that 215 number.
Yeah,
You're gonna get it smacked in your face every time.
yeah, and it's like it's crazy how you guys built your team. It's not fast, but it's just fast enough.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna just sit there and say. It was not fast, but it's just fast enough. So when you sit there and it's people just pretend like I said before, you guys did not win the Super Bowl about what we're talking 5 years ago when you won it in
Mhm.
2017, when you
Yep.
beat the team in the league that there was to beat in the New England Patriots, who many people considered your kryptonites.
Mhm.
On the grand stage. I'm actually glad you did that. So thank you from the city of Pittsburgh for that one. But but still, it's just like people. I think people slept on the Eagles as an organization too much. People just don't put the respect on Philadelphia State. Let me remind y'all, within these 20 years or 15 seasons, the Eagles has been to what, three, four Super Bowls? That
Yes.
is that is just as many Super Bowls, and I hate to highlight this, but that is just as many Super Bowls as my Pittsburgh Steelers. That is nearly half as many Super Bowls as the New England Patriots.
I mean, keeping
That
it a
says
buck,
a lot.
keeping it a buck, the Eagles have been getting a little bit of unwarranted hate since Donovan McNabb. So it's
Oh
just like,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's another day in the NFL.
Yeah, here we are. We're just here so we don't get fired kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's like
Another
there's no
day as
reason to
in the
sleep on that
NFL
team.
or another day as a quarterback?
Both.
Cool. I don't see the
I'm
difference
sorry.
with that one.
Both. That's all the above is the answer, Kayla. All the
Yeah.
above. I don't see no other answer for that because it's both in my book. I don't know about everybody else, but Breezy just goes on me, so that's a 2-to-1 ratio right there. It's both. It's both. But it's like I just can't believe what I saw. I'm like, are they really about to sit here and let the defended NFC champions, who lost the Super Bowl by 3 points, by the way, to snack up every top player, exception of Broderick Jones. Thank God for Omar Khan, but the only GM in that draft besides yours with common sense. Um, just snatch up everybody from the defended champions, the defended national champions team. Like everybody but the quarterback and Broderick Jones are the only people who are not on that Philadelphia Eagles teams right now that was on the University of Georgia. It's like, how can you do that? I got a question for all other 30 teams in this league. How can you be that dumb?
Easy. They have GMs that don't pay attention. When you don't pay
I
attention
I
and you
don't
keep
think the
answering
Colts
the
have
phone.
room to answer that question right now. We got too many problems going on over here.
Kayla, you guys didn't have enough draft capital, but see, this is me taking shots at
We're
teams who
cheap.
did.
We're cheap.
Oh
We're cheap.
gosh.
It's
Listen,
We
like,
Howie
can't pay
Roseman
our
is cheap
top running
too.
back. We can't pay our top running back, even though we're inviting him on team buses. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm not salty nor bitter.
I would be about that one. I wouldn't be too happy about that.
Oh man. Yeah, and Indy got some issues out there.
I mean, it's like I just cannot believe that the NFL allowed Pittsburgh and Philly to win the NFL draft. And to me, win NFL free agency, because the only team that really could stand the ground right now, maybe the Ravens, The Chiefs is always gonna stand the ground because they're the Chiefs. And then you got the damn Falcons. That's the only team who has the ground right now. Does even stand to say that they won anything within the NFL draft and NFL free agency. They let you guys keep some of your top players. They let you extend your quarterback. They let you do all of this stuff. And then they also sit there and let you just basically have the most draft capital and just use and do whatever the hell you want. It's like I know you was excited, but did you laugh when that happened? Was that like a ha-ha moment for you?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
honestly,
happens.
like all you really can do is laugh. That's really all that you can do. Because it's like it's been the blueprint every year. So if you want to slip up and keep letting it happen, then take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say this, and I'm gonna go out the bloom and say this. If the Philadelphia Eagles, if they aren't already, become the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFC, then to all other 15 teams in the NFC, you got nobody but yourselves to blame.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
Hey,
Stacy,
now Desmond Ritter and Bijan can't do it by themselves. They need a
Listen,
team.
I give
they're
your
gonna need some
Falcons some
time.
credit.
They're gonna need a
They're
little
gonna
bit.
need
They're
some
gonna need
time.
a little bit. We did what we could do. We did what we could do. You
Wait,
know.
hold up, Stacy. We can, I think I speak for me and Breeze both here, even Kayla a little bit. We gave your Falcons some credit. We just gave them huge praise.
No, absolutely, and I appreciate that because it comes few and far between this way when it comes to the Falcons. But I was just saying, you were saying that we allowed the Eagles just to take over. I'm saying we did the best that we could do. You know,
Okay, okay. You
we
know
did the
what?
best that we
That
could do.
maybe
You
that was
know,
a little carry away. So I'm gonna just correct myself right now. I will say the other 14 teams in the
thank you,
NFC
thank you. So
has
kind, so
nobody but
generous, so
themselves
kind.
to blame. That's a better pick because I did praise the Falcons, and because I just can't believe that happened. But I'm glad your mic is on, Stacey, because you are a Georgia Bulldogs fan. So, what were your thoughts on the Eagles gaining all these players and drafting at least 7 players from the defending champion team?
The sentiments are the same as what have been echoed earlier. Like it's extremely smart. They already know how to play well together. The chemistry is great. Um, like that's it. Like for anyone to allow them to literally just run amok and run the block and pick them one by one, it's like everyone else's fault. All these teams, these owners have to stop hiring their sons and their nephews and everything, and
Thank
they need to pay
you.
attention. They need to pay attention because after the first two, someone should have been like, "Hold a minute, hold up, wait a minute." Let us try to see what's going on here. But I again am a Bulldogs fan. As you see, I am on the Eagle side a little bit now because I'm excited. I feel like I'm watching Bulldogs 2.0. Like let's go. Outside of the Falcons, since Aaron Rodgers isn't with Green Bay anymore, I need another second team to watch. So Philly is definitely going to be it. So I can continue to watch my dogs shine. Go dogs, go dogs.
Yeah, they don't shine all right, especially around them dogs already in AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. I just can't believe that. I could not get over that to a point. I was just anxious for us to get to this topic because I just wanted to hear your thoughts, Stacy thoughts. I even want to hear a couple of Kayla thoughts on this because it's like why would you lie? You ain't see what they was doing. It's
I don't have any other answer other than I'm giving the Colts all of preseason to get their shit in order. Otherwise, we just need to go ahead and go back to rooms to go, Ashley Furniture, and go ahead and get our couches ready and in order when playoff time comes around. We got a lot of things that we need to figure out. But as far as looking at the hiring process of who we got in that front office, um, all I'm saying is listen to Black women, because we just got two quarter blacks paid, in Nicole and Lamar's mom. So shout out to us for being great. Take
Oh.
Hey America. But I mean, like I said, as far as teams go, I'm just gonna sit in my corner because we got a laundry list of things to figure out.
Yeah. No offense, Kayla. Only if we could relate over here about that. But yeah. Before we let you go, what would be your expectations for the Philadelphia Eagles heading into 2023? Is it Super
Um,
Bowl or bust for the Eagles?
it's not Super Bowl or bust. At least not for me. But I do need them to make it to the conference championship game again. And I need them to have home field advantage again. It's hard to play in Philadelphia. It really is. And you see how these, quote unquote elite teams come here and they crumble because they can't take the heat, you know? So having the playoffs come through South Philly in 3-degree weather, it could be snowing, it could be sleet, you never know what you're gonna get because we don't have a roof. So,
Mhm.
it's an advantage for us. And that's what I
Lincolnville
hope.
is hell.
Yeah.
It is hell. Trust
Yeah.
me. I never seen my Steelers when last time we won a game in Philadelphia, let me tell y'all, was 1956.
Oh my gosh. And I bet on I feel really bad for this, but I bet on oh my gosh. I bet on the quarterback to get sacked 4 times
Mm.
last year in there when the Steelers came and played here. So
And
I
he did.
apologize. I
So
apologize for
hey,
that. But I
I
won
think
some
we all
money and I'm
saw
very
that
happy.
coming. You should be happy because your team whooped on us, and I didn't really appreciate that.
I'm
But you
sorry.
did what you had to
Somebody
do.
had to get that whooping and you
Yeah.
guys were up next.
Unfortunately, we had so many problems. I'm just glad I'm not thinking like that headed into the season. I'm actually excited about my Steelers, rightfully so. So let's just hopefully they don't let me down this year. I'm not expecting much, but I am expecting a huge jump from what I saw last year. But
Yeah.
But yeah, so breezy though. With the phenomenal draft that the Eagles just had that we mentioned, with many of the team returning from last year, except for like with the exception of very few players, why not Super Bowl or bust? Like, what is some of your apprehension about the Eagles making it back to the Super Bowl this year?
Well, I feel like it's really hard to get back once you've been there once. It takes a extremely, extremely disciplined team all around to get back, to the Super Bowl. The only team that we've seen do that, over the course of 20 years has been New England. It's very, very hard. So I'm not putting that expectation on them. But, if they can get to that NFC championship game and win, I'm all for it. I don't mind watching another Eagles in whoever Super Bowl, but for me, it's just get to the championship game and I'll call that a successful season in my eyes. Now, if you get, have me out here spending my money come February and,
Listen,
and I got to take a trip on my daughter's birthday to go out to Vegas to watch the Super Bowl, I might have to do that. But yeah, I'll be happy with the conference championship and maybe another Super Bowl run. We'll see.
cool. And my closing thoughts for you. Early, super early. We're only into the second week of camp, essentially. Hot take. What's your prediction for the season? How's it going to end?
I think the Eagles win the division again. Number one. We'll probably split with the Cowboys because we pretty much always do. So I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, I think we win the division, home field advantage in the playoffs, and back on it again. I think
So
it's gonna
who?
be a great season.
So then, who's beating you, and who is going to the Super Bowl?
Who's beating us?
Yes.
There's I think there's like 2 teams that could beat us. One being obviously Kansas City. Since we're going to Arrowhead, it's a tough place to play, just like it is in Philly. So I have that down as a potential loss. And a game that they should win that could also be a loss is Seattle. I think Geno
Yes.
Smith. I think Geno Smith is really, really good. I think he's got a great offense around him, and they got one of the best wide receivers in the draft, and I think they might they might sneak past us, but yeah, I mean, outside of those two, there's really nobody. Even the 49ers, like the 40, no, shut that
Yeah,
down
I
right
agree
now.
with you about the Niners. I agree.
49ers
They
are not
said
beating us.
Brock Purdy is gonna be looking pretty
Brock Purdy is
good.
probably going to get knocked out in the game again. I don't want to hear nothing about them coming here saying they're going to win, because they are not. We're not going down this road again. I'll say it every week until we play the 49ers, and then I'll keep saying it after we beat them. You want
Breezy,
to
you
go
said
against us
that from
again?
your diaphragm.
You want to have Hassan Reddick in your face. You want to have Nolan Smith in your face. You want to have all of these defensive guys clobbering your quarterback while you're out here talking mess and sending your coach pictures of your shirt off. Like, you want to do that? Fine.
Yes,
We'll take the
it's
game.
it's hard to do that with Trey Lance, at the
Yeah.
helm, leading your
And he's
team.
been
And it sounds
struggling
as
in
if
camp
it's not,
as of
yeah,
lately.
sounds like if it's not even really going well.
Right.
So yeah, I was just glad to hear that you didn't put the 49ers up there, because I was going,
Yeah, I would never. Nope. Nope.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So before we let you go, we got to get back to this. Is there, because we ask all our hosts this who host podcasts this. So, is there anything that we should expect from you, from Sports and Stilettos, heading into this year?
You get a lot more honesty. I didn't think that you never think that you could be more honest, but I think you're going to get a lot more honesty out of me. You're going to get plenty of bets. You're going to get plenty of personality, and just giving the best that I can every single week, and hoping for another Birds win that I could talk about the following day. So should be a solid season.
Yes, shout out to more honesty, because that's
Yeah.
honestly what's missing, especially with the emergence of sports betting as being this premier thing. You have a lot more people faking the funk for more coin, for clout, for all of these other things, and playing it
Yep.
safe for the politics and whatnot. But yeah, shout out to more honesty. High five, virtual high five.
Yes.
We can't wait to hear it. We cannot wait to hear it.
Yeah. All right, Reese. It's been a great time. Though, thank you for once again joining the show. I speak for all of us. This has been one of our best episodes yet, because the topic alone, the flavor that you bring, obviously, us three being the great team that we are. If you guys haven't already, please give this lady a follow on Twitter at yourhost_breezy. And please follow her podcast, Sports and Stiletto. It's on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else.
Google, oh my gosh, iHeartRadio, all of that.
All of that. Okay. And also give it a follow on Instagram at Sports and Stilettos as well. Stacy, anything you'd like to say? Kayla, anything you'd like to say before we sign out and drop our usernames and stuff?
Yes, dear. Are you on Threads? Did you join the
I
Discord?
am not. No.
Look at you staying strong.
No, because I saw somebody say that if you get tired of Threads and you want to leave, you can't, because it's tied to your Instagram account, and you'd have to delete the Instagram account. I don't have time for all of that. Nope.
See,
Yeah.
because you're smart, because we all drank the Kool-Aid.
If we locked in, ain't no switching up.
Yeah, we all locked in. I just haven't posted on my threads yet. So
Oh, man.
Not a death row contract via social media. Get out of here.
hey, it happens.
Whew.
But speaking of social media, give me a follow at Shane Max Sports. Give Stacy here a follow at Stacy X Sports, along with her follow on IG at Darn That Stacy J, and give Kayla here a follow on both on Instagram and Twitter at Indie Redhead. This is your host, May Shayla, your co-host, Stacey J, and Kayla Lewis, signing out along with our special guest, Breezy. And this has been the Mike Bomb Podcast.
Bye.
Welcome to the Mike Bomb Podcast, the podcast where the bombs get thrown. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode. This is your host, May Shayla, exiting out. But before I do, I would like to take the time to thank everyone who has subscribed, followed, and listened to the podcast, and for your overall support and love. If you are interested in getting more news and updates about the podcast, such as new episodes, new seasons, you can now subscribe and follow the podcast on your favorite platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora Radio, Google Podcasts, and much more. Or you can visit www.themikebomb.com for news updates within your favorite sport leagues, along with more news about the podcast. Thank you for your support, and see you next episode.
This is my night, this is my pain, this is my life, this is what I was born to do, I was born to do, every new day, every new night, every new stage, every new fight, this is what I was born to do, I was born to do, fall to my knees every night and I pray, asking Lord, let